Hello. Um, so it's been a bit since I've last streamed, mostly just because of class and whatnot. But today I'm back for a very special occasion, special for my uh for my genre of content anyway, which is that um today is the 20th anniversary of the initial release of the original Feeding Frenzy. So, uh yeah, it It is definitely an old game at this point, which is weird for me to say, considering I am older than it. So, we're going to be doing some speedruns. We're going to be looking at my tier list of the game, and I have the poll up to see what you guys are thinking I should do first. It looks like right now we're leaning towards speedruns. Um, actually, yeah, I think let's just start with the speedruns. Um, yeah. Sorry, it's been a while. Um, so hopefully, I say hopefully like somewhat tentatively, hopefully we can uh get a really, really good time. Whether or not I break the world record is sort of up in the air, but it's possible, technically. And if that happens, uh, I don't know what I will do. But well, I do know. I'll like stop speedrunning and then we'll immediately switch to the tier list. So, in about an hour and a half, I am for sure going to go to the tier list, and then in 2 hours, um, the stream will probably be done. Or if I do continue, it'll be completely on mute and just doing speedruns. So I'm just getting everything set up right now. And what do you know? All right, so we're going to be speedrunning. Happy birthday to this game, which is now 20 years old. Let's, let's do this.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy.
Well, yeah. Um, and if you guys didn't see, I actually put in the description of this stream a link to a Discord server called the Frenzy Zone, which is specifically for Feeding Frenzy related stuff. So it's only got a couple people in it right now, but like there's me, there's the world record holder for Feeding Frenzy 2, there's a couple other people there. It's still pretty small, but you know, we've got some emojis, we've got some stickers. And it's not just going to be about speedrunning either, so if you like the game but not necessarily the speedruns, or if you're interested in more than just the speedruns, by all means, you're allowed to engage with that there. Like modding, for example. Modding will be a supported topic in that server.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy.
We're off to a great start. um,
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy.
So if you notice that I reset a lot in the beginning, it's because the first couple stages are extremely optimized,
Meeting frenzy.
but it's also really easy
Double
to
frenzy.
just reset and be right back to where you were. So it's really easy to just practice them over and over and over again. Not really a huge deal.
Meeting frenzy. Double frenzy.
Right.
Meeting frenzy. Double frenzy. Meeting frenzy.
One that I've noticed is that I have an extremely hard time making up any time on this specific stage, and I don't really have a whole lot of explanations why outside of just it's such a tight stage.
Meeting frenzy.
Like you have to get like perfect spawns and move perfectly in order to do super well on it. And then of course there's this stage, which is just so slow. I'm pretty sure I I'm pretty sure I hold the world record for stage 3, and the fastest time I've ever gotten on it is 43 seconds, compared
Meeting
to
frenzy.
stage 4, for example, which is
Double frenzy.
less than 30 seconds long at its absolute fastest, which just kind of goes to show how slow of a stage 3 is.
Meeting frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Meeting frenzy. Double frenzy.
No luck there. Alright.
Double frenzy. Feeding frenzy.
There it is, the first black pearl of this
Double
stream.
frenzy.
You'll love to see it.
Double frenzy.
And you don't love to see the big red surgeon immediately run away. But hey, time save.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy.
Man. Okay.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy.
See what I mean about spawns for this level? Like,
Feeding frenzy.
spawns for every level as it so happens. Like, you get one bad spawn, and the whole run
Feeding
can
frenzy.
kind of fall apart on some of these earlier stages. It's less of an issue in the late game, because it's not as optimized. Like, I don't think I've ever had a run that I've done that's completely deathless. Ideally, that's what I want, is one that's completely deathless. I don't die at all, because dying wastes time. But at the very least, I'm able to control the beginning of the game to that degree, which is why if you get like a really bad spawn early on, you start losing a ton of time.
Double frenzy.
Or just bad RNG in general, because as far as I can tell, the behavior of every fish is determined completely at random.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
I don't think I realized how slow this stage can be until now. Just in terms of like, wow, this can be a really slow stage if you get like
Speeding
terrible
frenzy.
spawns.
Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Speeding frenzy.
That was a
Double
good
frenzy.
black pearl. Maybe I can make up some time here. Just need a good gold minnow.
Double frenzy.
I'll take it.
Double frenzy.
Stage is pretty mindless.
Speeding frenzy. Speeding frenzy.
I'm not too worried about
Double
being
frenzy.
uh, a bit behind early on. As it happens, my late game and my current record is not great. So, we're able to make up time later on.
Speeding frenzy.
I don't know why
Double
my
frenzy.
inhale wasn't coming out there.
Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
No black pearl means slow.
Speeding frenzy. Double frenzy.
You get a black pearl there, though.
Double frenzy.
Ew. Wow. No need needs gold minnow, I guess.
Speeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Ah,
Double frenzy.
all right. Ah, that's an unfortunate place to die, and an unfortunate gold minnow to miss too.
Speeding frenzy.
I'm comfortable with resetting even as far as there because,
Double
uh,
frenzy.
well, in that case, that was just terrible. I was already behind. Um, but I also want to like extend the amount of time where I do everything without dying. Hopefully, ideally.
Speeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Speeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Speeding frenzy.
That is a very good black
Double
pearl.
frenzy.
Can I get another? I'll take the regular.
Speeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Very good black pearl. That's basically exactly when you want it. It's right before phase 2 starts. Because it'll put you way into phase 2 and skips a lot of the dancing around the lionfish in uh, phase 2. Get closer to just skipping all that and just eating them.
Speeding frenzy.
Evidenced by the fact that I made up some time there.
Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Fortunately, that level is slow.
Speeding frenzy. Double frenzy.
Alright, now we look for the gold minnow. Epic.
Double frenzy.
Now we make up some time. Let's hope that spawn time is more favorable this time I play this stage, as opposed to last time. A bit of behind the scenes on how this game works. Everything that spawns has a timer associated with it. So, certain things will spawn faster, certain things will spawn slower, but ultimately, how fast things spawn are determined somewhat arbitrarily by random. And jellyfish slowed me down. So like it'll be, oh yeah, this thing will spawn every interval of at least a tenth of a second or at most a fifth of a second, for example. It's like random, but like random within a range. Thank you, Gold Minnow. So sometimes the difference between a good spawn and a bad spawn can be as little as like a tenth of a second. But then sometimes it could be like, oh yeah, here's a good spawn that's it only takes 15 seconds. Here's a bad spawn that takes 40. So it varies quite a bit, just depending on what it's trying to spawn. It also varies based on what phase you're in. So, like earlier phases tend to spawn bigger things slower, whereas later phases tend to spawn slower things. Slower things? And spawn smaller things slower. And then this also ties into power-ups. Power-ups spawn more often at the beginning rather than at the end, which can be good for certain power-ups. I didn't want to eat that. Can be good for certain power-ups like the stun, which I just got, because you don't want it going off near the end of the stage, because that'll slow things down. And it's bad for other things like the shield, which you really want towards the end, so you don't flub anything. There goes the golden minnow, but with the black pearl, I think I'm going to be fine. Yeah, I'm fine. I recently got a new PB on this stage. Alright, so now I really need to catch the golden minnow. I don't have any oysters to work as a crutch here. That was easy. This is just an extremely optimal stage 14, huh? Yeah, wow, okay.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy.
And then there's no golden minnow here, so we have to kind of rely on this oyster.
Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Not giving me a whole lot to work with. Alright, I think I'm past the point where I should reset for that death.
Feeding frenzy.
So, we're gonna keep going for now.
Double frenzy.
Besides, I want to get at least one full run in tonight. There's a black pearl. Doesn't make up for the death, but whatever. It's fine. I'm fine. That was kind of slow. But then just like stage 13, where I recently got a PB on it, I recently proved that you can do this stage in under a minute.
Double frenzy.
There's one other stage in the game right now where there are currently no times on the leaderboard that are under a minute, but I know it can be done in under a minute, which is stage 19,
Double frenzy.
which is in 2 stages. That can be done sub-minute, but no one's proved it yet. So hopefully, I'm going to prove it when I get there. It's not now, but soon.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Like Black Pearl moment. No golden minnow, unfortunately. Alright. Let's prove that this stage can be done in under a minute. Because I know it can be. I've done it before. I don't know where the footage is.
Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Black Pearl helps. Will it help enough? I don't think so. Yeah, no, okay. And that's why stun extends the level, but you do see that this stage can be done under a minute. That was slow. I don't know why that oyster didn't kill me, but when it did. Okay.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
I've yet to decide whether Fury, as a power-up, is too slow or not.
Double frenzy.
Because there are cases where it's not slow, but then on this stage specifically, Fury can be extremely slow, and for that matter, it can even softlock you if you're really unlucky. I'm not sure how it works yet. All I know is that it can happen, and it has happened to runners in the past. really know why I went for that Fury up there. There wasn't anything up there to eat with it.
Frenzy.
But yeah, another thing that is dictated by random in this behavior system for the game,
Feeding frenzy.
the speed of the fish. It's also random. I think what happens is that they're given some speed value that they start at when they spawn, and then
Double frenzy.
it's within their maximum minimum range,
Double frenzy.
and then they will change their speed based on their surroundings. So like,
Double frenzy.
fish will speed up to chase you or run away from you. They'll slow down if um, they're just sort of hanging out, I guess. I guess wander is like the right word, because I do know that wander is a state that fish can be in this game.
Double frenzy.
As time goes on, I am learning more and more about how this game's AI works.
Feeding frenzy.
Yield.
Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
I want the minnow. There we go. And the shield didn't break, even though I definitely ran into something with it. That's awesome. This is why shield is so OP. Sometimes stuff like that can just happen, where you definitely should have lost the shield, and then you just don't.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Speaking of golden minnows, I want another golden minnow here soon. Thank you! Wow. Is it just me, or have the golden minnows just been really nice to me today?
Double frenzy.
And we can make up some serious time here. Case in point, Black Pearl. I think the game's trying to apologize for all the trouble it was giving me earlier. Give me that.
Double frenzy.
I don't know how I missed that. Whatever, it's fine.
Double frenzy. Double
Build is
frenzy.
busted.
Double frenzy.
Don't know why that tuna didn't
Double
get rid of my shield, but I'll take it. Another Black Pearl. That's awesome.
Double frenzy.
Wow.
Feeding frenzy. Feeding frenzy.
We can make up a little time here.
Double frenzy.
That depends on if the everything works with me. Such as the golden minnow. I'll take Black Pearl. That is perfect. Oh my goodness.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Okay, where's the last pufferfish? Up here. Alright, losing a bit of time, but it's fine. You have time to lose.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Technically, this is also a golden minnow stage, but right now I'm just kind of focusing on staying alive. Not the greatest golden minnow, but whatever. Right. Gonna lose a little time here. That's okay. I blame the stun. And when I say I blame the stun, I mean I blame myself for getting the stun. Not necessarily that. Yeah.
Feeding frenzy.
Okay. Let's get out of here. I don't know what that orca was doing, but I'm just glad it didn't go for me. I am not going to make up some time here, unfortunately.
Double frenzy.
And that's okay. Like I said,
Double frenzy.
my stage 40 in my world record is really bad.
Double frenzy.
I kind of lost more time than I would have liked there. It happens, I guess.
Feeding frenzy.
There's also a golden minnow stage. I don't want the golden minnow just yet. Okay, now I want the golden minnow.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
There we go. Making up some time again. Okay, and then another slow oyster kill. These oyster kill bonus levels have been giving me some trouble, huh? Out of here. Pearl moment. Should probably wander around and look for a golden minnow at some point.
Double frenzy.
I should definitely... Yeah, okay. And then Black Pearl gets stolen. Not that I could have gotten to it anyway, I was dead. But golden minnow, let's go. Okay. I'll take it. Oh, Black Pearl. Always good.
Feeding frenzy.
So there's a chance that that golden minnow on that previous stage is going to be the last golden minnow in this run. Because next stage is the last golden minnow stage, and there's a possibility I won't get the golden minnow. But I've been getting really good golden minnow luck this whole run. So it's possible that I still get it. Welcome in, Jennifer. How's it going? And then we got really good midway crossing. Sub-minute, let's go. Okay. I'd definitely say stick around if you potentially want to see record, because this is ahead of the record with only a couple stages left to go. And I am now going to proceed to not talk about record for the rest of the run. That's the last golden minnow of the run, by the way. No more after this. Mine got me.
Feeding frenzy.
And it was also not a very good golden minnow.
Double frenzy.
Okay. It's fine.
Feeding frenzy.
It's fine. We have time to continue being good at the game.
Double frenzy.
I would say I spoke too soon about record, but technically I haven't. Not until stage 40. But then again, I'm
Double frenzy.
not doing so hot. Right. Oh, oyster kill. That's a theme as well. We're all perfect.
Feeding frenzy.
Another one.
Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
I have some time to squeeze out of this stage too, actually. Speed is good. Another black pearl. Wow. Thank you for getting rid of that poison minnow shark. New best merry-go-round. So if you guys wanted to see something that was a record, that's a record. It's an individual stage record, but it's a record now. I will not be getting a record for this stage unless I play perfectly, which I have not, so no record for this stage, unfortunately.
Feeding frenzy.
The game knew that I was starting to do a little too well, so it started getting rid of the good stuff.
Feeding frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy. Double frenzy.
Ah. Okay, no, I have to stop here. I was just too far behind. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was a really good run, though. Okay, I'm gonna take a short break here for a moment. Um, so I'm gonna be right back. I'm going to do a couple things, and then I'm going to go over the tier list, and then we're gonna go back to speedruns. The reason why I'm stopping here, as opposed to later on, is just because that run got so far. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be right back. Um, and then we're gonna be doing a tier list. And we're back. All right, I had to get some water and just sort of like get some movement out, because we're gonna be doing the tier list. It's not a very quick, not a very long break, but it's a break nonetheless. So this is going to be a tier list of every single stage in the game, um, which is a concept I initially did a while back, because I read a Eurogamer review for the original Feeding Frenzy off of it was quoted on the Wikipedia page for the game or something like that. And what they said was like, "Oh my god, every stage is exactly the same as every other stage. This is more of the same." And as someone who's played the game before, and someone who currently has the world record, I didn't at the time, but I do now. I was just like, that's just not right at all. Like each stage, like there are certainly similar stages. Don't get me wrong. There are stages that are very, very similar to each other, and that's just not acceptable. But the majority of stages have their own identity. They have their own thing to them. I was like, you know what? Just to prove this one random guy wrong, I'm going to make a tier list of every stage in the game. I'm going to do this with Feeding Frenzy 2 as well. I had one, I had an old one a while back, but now that I've done speedruns for the game and talked with the world record holder and whatnot, I think I can make a better tier list for that game as well, but that'll be for another time. In the meantime, we're just doing Feeding Frenzy 1, and that's what this tier list looks like. There are 40 stages in the game. I made somewhat of a standard distribution out of the tiers. So there's like a lot of things that are mid tier, and then fewer things that are top tier, fewer things that are bottom tier. Just because that's generally how things go. So we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to move our way up. The tiers are ordered, and things that are on the left are ranked higher than things on the right. So we start at the very bottom. At the very, very bottom, we have stage 8, which is the stage that I called mindless earlier, because it definitely is just completely mindless. Like, there's basically nothing you can do to make it go faster, and if you're playing casually, it's just not a very fun stage. Um, this tier list takes both casual and speedrun into account. So the biggest flaw I have with stage 8, which I think I'm just gonna start calling them by their names. Stage 8 is Jelly Jam. The worst part of it, by far, is that it asks you to eat starfish bubbles while avoiding jellyfish. And that might seem perfectly fine, but you have to remember that these things move in the exact same way. So there are times where you just have to sit there and wait for one of those bubbles to move past the jellyfish. Otherwise, like, you get slowed way down, and it's just not fun to do. And this will tie into something else that's in D tier, but it really should have had its gimmick swapped with a different stage. I'll get to that when I get to that. Just for right now, Jelly Jam is just awful. Um, it's not very well designed. I think just from the whole degree of like it's not very well thought out as a premise. Like you can play it well. Um, you can you could even have fun playing it, I suppose. But compared to the rest of the game, it's just such a bland stage. And that's kind of what I'm going to get into with the next one, up, which is stage 13, Fish in a Barrel, which is the stage that I recently got a PB on. Not the one that I recently proved was sub-minute possible, but one I recently got a PB on. I think it's the second worst stage in the game. And there's one very specific reason for that, which is that if you haven't like zoomed in on the stream and you're looking at stage 13 down here at the bottom, it might be hard to tell what it's trying to show here. This isn't a screenshot. These are all images I assembled myself. But there are blue angelfish that you need to catch because they're going super quickly. But it's on a blue background. They're almost the same color. So the whole time you're trying to move as fast as possible because the game gives you speed boosts. So like even in a casual setting, you're trying to do this quickly, but you're trying to chase things that are like perfectly camouflaged for the area, and it sucks. Like I'm sure that if you just have a hard time telling those colors apart, you might not be able to see the angelfish most of the time. And that's a huge problem. It's such a bland stage. Like this game can be colorful. It's not super colorful. It still has that weird crusty pre-rendered look for a lot of its assets, and then the backgrounds are like vaguely watercolor. But it can be very colorful. And the angelfish especially, you have a purple angelfish that's in the game. Why didn't they just make those ones purple instead of blue? I don't know why they did that, but whatever. Next up is Minefield, stage 39. Um, one of the two stages that I didn't get to in the previous run. just because I died too often in Shark Reef. So Minefield also sucks. Uh, and the reason for that, from a casual perspective, is that it's not a hard stage at all. Um, there are mines that spawn, and you're supposed to be eating starfish bubbles again. But the problem is that those starfish bubbles don't really interact with the mines in an interesting way. They don't really force you to go up to the mines super often, and the mines themselves spawn super slowly. So it's less of a minefield and more of like uh, the LaCroix of mine spawns because it just never happens. It's barely saturated. So what ends up happening is that you're just, sitting at the bottom. Sometimes you encounter a poison minnow, which, not part of the stage gimmick, but we'll have them here anyway for some reason. And it's just not interesting. It's just not a particularly good stage. From a speedrun point of view, it's like kind of different. It's still like the third worst in the game, but like it's one of the bonus stages that you can skip by dying and on it. The previous two, you can't die in them whatsoever, so you can't skip them. So that puts Minefield in a position of, okay, this is a bonus stage that you can skip. So how easily and how consistently can you skip it? And the answer is, it's not consistent at all. You're in this very wide open area, so you have to move a lot. And all the mines just spawn randomly. There's like this huge margin on a speedrunning point of view for the mines to spawn. And it can lead to things like, oh yeah, I got a fast minefield. That means that it's like 12 seconds long. Or it's like, wow, I got a really slow minefield. That's like 20 seconds. So you can like lose 8 seconds just based off of pure bad luck. And it's even worse if a poison minnow swims into the first mine that spawns and detonates it early, because it means that now it's even slower. It'll take even longer. It could potentially be like a 30-second stage, and it's one that you are supposed to skip. But we get to move up a tier to D tier, and you'll notice that there are like a lot of Orville stages down towards the bottom half of the list, and that's because they're all the same. All of them, they're all the same, and they all suck. So we're gonna start with Love Canal, which is stage 35, um, which is the last golden minnow spawn in the game, and it just throws all the shit at you. It has oysters, it has jellyfish, it has poison minnows, it has mines. It's like, stop! You're putting every gimmick into one stage. Stop it! It's just not an engaging or fun stage. There are good, engaging, fun stages that have a lot of hazards. This is not one of them. It's just not good at all. Uh, I kind of struggle to say much more than that because this is just such a one note stage in terms of gameplay, which is just avoid literally everything around you. I could see an argument that's like, oh yeah, it forces you to like move out of the way um for gold. It's like you have to interact with the stage in an interesting way to get the golden minnow, right? But I don't think that's good enough to justify it being higher on the list. And also, it's basically the same as every other Orville stage, but some of those are like somewhat more interesting, or not as like, oh yeah, we're gonna spam everything at you. So Love Canal like just really suffers. And then we have Barracuda Buffet. Barracuda Buffet, um, just stage 36. It used to be really low on my casual list, just because if you want to pass the stage, it is so tight on time. Like Minefield has the problem of not being hard enough. Barracuda Buffet has the problem of being too hard. So, as you're aware, I am the best Feeding Frenzy 1 player in the world. I struggle to do Barracuda Buffet 100% consistently because it's just so tight on time. Like, it gives you like a minute, I think. A minute sounds right. Or like a minute 10 to eat 60 barracuda, but you're in this gigantic area. They're all over the place. They spawn at the sides, so you have to keep going back and forth across the entire stage. And then it also has these random oysters for no reason, which is good for speedrunning because it means you can skip it, and that's why it's in D tier as opposed to F tier. But those oysters are just there to distract you if you're playing casually. And it's like, why are they here? These don't contribute to the stage at all from like a game design perspective. So it just isn't good. I'm going to complain a lot about the ones near the bottom. We're going to get past that eventually. Number 37, Merry-Go-Round, which is the stage that I just got a new record on. I'm going to have to go back and find the timestamp for that in the stream to submit it. Merry-Go-Round um, is also just not good. It's basically stage 33, but with no golden minnow, and yeah, it's just like, why is this a stage? It's the same as one that already exists. So I'm not going to put in that much effort explaining it because it doesn't put in a whole lot of effort being original. So take that, merry-go-round, I guess. Uh, Above that, we have our first showing for a stage that is not at the very beginning or very end. We have a mid-game stage, which is Marlin Madness, which is actually the latest mid-game stage. Um, it's down here because it just blatantly copies stage 27 up in B tier, basically uh, beat for beat, which it, I complained about that for the Orville stages. Marlin Madness is at least somewhat better because it's somewhat interesting. It's not as hard as Stage 27, but it, it's at least fun to play. I'll say that. It's fun to play, but it's not good at being interesting. So it's all the way down here. We move up again to Stage 2, Feeding Frenzy, which is definitely not a confusing name. And this is the stage that I was talking about with Jelly Jam. Feeding Frenzy and Jelly Jam should have their gimmicks swapped. Feeding Frenzy should have been about just eating starfish bubbles. Jelly Jam should have been eating minnows while avoiding jellyfish. Perfect. You get to introduce starfish bubbles in a very safe environment. You can teach players what they are and that they're good and that you want to go for them in a casual setting. And then Jelly Jam is like, oh yeah, um, we're going to test you on what you learned at the beginning of the game by giving you these fish you need to eat while also avoiding the hazards without outright killing you for doing poorly. That would work. That would be a good, like, summation of Andy's stages. But then they just didn't do that, and stage 2 is just like, eat all the fish on screen with nothing in your way. It's like, I mean, yeah, this is easy, but also this is really boring. It's basically the same as stage 1, but with literally no enemies. So why is it like this? Now we're in C tier, and we start with stage 3, which is the very next stage. So Bubble Bubble is basically the same as stage 1 again. Where did I hear that? But now it's just much slower. Like everything just spawns at a much slower rate. So it's just stage 1, but worse. There are, there are a couple stages that are just X stage, but worse, and that really sucks. Stage 3 at least has, like, something that stage one doesn't in the starfish bubbles, but like again, it's just stage one, but everything spawns slower. That's not interesting. That's not good. It's not fun. Why are you doing this? Stage 11, fish soup, which is okay. Uh, I think I'm pretty confident saying that it's okay. If the fact that it has minnows as the small fish kind of baffles me because minnows are just so small. But you know what, whatever. It's fine. It's the last stage to have minnows in it for some reason. And then it completely revolves around stun, which is perfectly fine from a casual setting. Speedrunners hate it though, because it slows down the entire game and it prevents the level from ending. So it turns out to just kind of be an okay stage. And then next up is Shark King, stage 40, the other stage I didn't get to so far today, which is, I guess, also okay. It's better from a casual perspective, but from a speedrunner's perspective, it's a nightmare. You have to manage so many things in Shark King, especially in phases 1 and 3, not so much phase 2. In phase 1, you have to avoid basically everything while sticking close to the oysters. In phase 3, you have to go and eat every tuna before they go off screen or the Shark King eats them because tuna don't spawn anymore in phase 3 for some reason. And then I think the nail in the coffin for stage 40 is just that you can't eat the Shark King himself to finish the stage in stage 40. For some reason, like the amount of like level completion you get for eating something in the Barracuda class, which the Shark King itself is part of, is 0. It's just completely bugged. So you can't like progress the stage at all by eating it. And I don't know why. I guess it's that like tail bites aren't a thing that you can just like yeah, I think it's that you can't use tail bites to finish the stage, but even then, it's like I feel like they could have programmed it a little better. Feeding Frenzy 2 was perfectly capable of doing that. You can tail bite things and not get points, and then when you eat those things later, they do give you points. That it works perfectly fine in that game, but in this game, no such thing. I don't really get why that's how that works. I don't want to go too hard on I don't want to go too hard on like the programming of it because like it is made by a small team. I don't really know what it was like then. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. And I'll just say Shark King could have been much better if it just like had a better phase 3. Phase 3 could have been really interesting if like you were able to go across the entire screen unencumbered and just absolutely wreck shit with the Shark King because like it's the culmination of the game's bare bones story, right? Like the whole game's leading up to this, and then it's just okay, you eat it, and then nothing happens. And it's like cool, thanks. And then stage 38, which is where I unfortunately lost. Um, it's the only stage in the game to have schools of John Dories, and that's basically the most interesting thing about it. It has a lot of sharks that will run you down, and it's really hard to deal with. But you know what? I think it's actually kind of a fun stage. It still kind of falls into the traps of like this is an Orville stage. They're all basically the same. Also, when you're at max size with Orville and you turn around, the entire screen uh suddenly shifts, and that's not fun to do, especially from a speedrun perspective where you're turning around a lot. I didn't mention it earlier for some reason, but I'm mentioning it here now. Max size Orville sucks because the camera is literally too small to keep track of it. Ugh. Shark Reef is fine. It's it's okay. Uh, it's not it's not a particularly good stage, but it is a stage. I'll give it that. Stage 19, 6 degrees, that's the one that, as of yet, it's the only stage that I know can be done sub-minute that hasn't been proven sub-minute. Um, it just has a lot of stuff on screen all at once. Um, kind of in like this gimmick of there's 6 things you need to keep track of, but it's also referencing the, like 6 degrees of separation thing, which is interesting, I guess. I Some of these stage names are definitely references to things. I don't pick up on all of them, but I pick up on this one at least. 6 degrees is okay. You have to dodge a whole lot, which is fine. It just feels like a very cramped stage, which is fine for what it's trying to do. Um, it just kind of gets outperformed by better stages. 6 degrees can be particularly slow if the one oyster doesn't cooperate. Um, and it can be especially slow if you screw up once and touch a mine. But other than that, it's just fine. It's whatever. Stage 28 is a stage that is much better in casual than it is in speedrunning. Because you're given stun, and there's a bunch of pufferfish. So, from a casual perspective, it's a great stage. It works perfectly, it does what it's trying to do. From a speedrunning perspective, it's just awful, trash tier. So I'm really split on like whether this is a good stage or a bad stage, and taking into account all the criteria I had, that puts it like at the towards the top half of C tier, which I think is fair. Because there are some things that are like, okay, it's just pufferfish and jellyfish and stun, and that's it. So from that perspective, it's a little kind of bland. But I don't know, like casually, it's perfectly fine, and it kind of gets saved because of that, and I'm okay with that because not everyone is a speedrunner, as it so happens. Stage 16, watch what you eat. This is kind of similar to stage 39, where it could just be extremely long if the mines don't spawn. But for what it's worth, it kind of like just works as a summation of Leon's levels because it has the two hazards that Leon's stages introduce, the poison minnows and the mines, and it uses them together like, okay, did you learn what you were supposed to? And if you can pass the stage in a casual setting, then yes, you have, and you're able to progress to Eddie's stages no problem. Or if you like die to a mine, you have to like really pay attention to the fact that you died to a mine and like be really careful in the next couple stages. And for that matter, the next two stages after Watch What You Eat don't have mines at all. So if you failed because of a mine, it kind of goes easy on you a bit. But if you didn't fail because of a mine, like if you pass, for example, then like clearly you know what you're doing. The mine alone wouldn't stop you. Am I making sense? I feel like I'm making sense. um, Stage 16 is fine for what it's worth. It can be very slow from a speedrunning perspective, but it's one that you can skip, which is good. And Stage 24, playing chicken, is also something that you can skip because there are barracudas. Again, from a casual perspective, perfectly fine. From a speedrunner's perspective, it's also perfectly fine and pretty fast. You can just go up to one of the barracuda, and if you still have invincibility, you can just inhale. For some reason, inhaling removes your invincibility in this game. I don't know why. It's just kind of a boring stage. Like, there are only two other things in the entire stage that aren't power-ups, those being um, the red surgeons you're trying to eat and the barracuda. For some reason, the HUD for this stage shows minnows, even though minnows aren't present at all in the stage. So if you want, you could say that stage 24 is the last one with minnows in it, but I would say no because it doesn't have minnows in it. It just has a reference to them, and I don't know why. It's kind of weird. I'd have to look into the files again to figure that one out. But yeah, stage 24, it's fine. It's perfectly okay, and that's kind of what the theme is going to be for a couple more stages. Starting with stage 26, which okay, maybe not. But stage 26 is fine. You can do it really really quickly as a speedrunner if the two oysters cooperate, like they did in that run that I just failed. um, if you get a lot of black pearls, then it's really really good and it's really fast. But there are jellyfish and poison minnows, and also small green anglerfish, which is like why they look the same as the poison minnows. Whatever. This game has like a lot of colors sometimes, and then sometimes it falls in the trap of like, here are two things that uh are the same color. You need to avoid one of them and go after the other. And it's like, cool, thanks. But like for the most part, Stage 26, more Mutant Madness, perfectly fine. It's it's whatever. It is. It can be very fast speed running. It can be pretty okay from a casual perspective. Overall, it's just fine. It's not particularly bad. It's fairly inoffensive. Stage 12, A Need for Speed. Um, I'd say it's a pretty good introduction for the speed boost, which is good because you're going to be using it a lot throughout the entire run. Because speed is busted, especially in tandem with the shield, and especially in stage 40, where you need to scrounge up things during phase 3. Um, Having it be a golden minnow stage, in addition to the speed, is I think a very smart decision because it means that you can run down a golden minnow with a ton of speed, which is awesome. Uh, and it's not particularly like dense with things, so it's not like, oh yeah, I got a speed boost and then I move and then I am immediately dead. It's I got a speed boost and then you can just zip across the entire screen like a maniac. And and for what that's worth, that's really fun to do. It's just really fun. So yeah, I think bottom of B tier, pretty solid. Killer Instinct, stage 33. This is the last this Orville stage is like every other Orville stage because it's like the type species for an Orville stage. Like basically every Orville stage is like Killer Instinct. You have barracudas, you have John Dory's, you have tuna and marlin, and you have sharks, and then you have some oysters. I think there's definitely jellyfish, and I think there's mines. There might even be poison minnows. I don't remember. There better not be. um, it's also a golden minnow stage, uh, which I will say, golden minnow stages for Orville, the two of them, are not particularly good because the entire stage is just gigantic. So the golden minnow could just be like way outside of camera range, and you'd have no idea. And that kind of sucks. It means that you can just waste a spawn of a golden minnow, and that's just never good. Um, but Killer Instinct kind of holds back a bit more than the other Orville stages, which in this case is a good thing because the other Orville stages are batshit insane for no reason. I mean, there is a reason they're at the end of the game, but also like hold back a little, please. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Uh, I'll say that. Um, Casually, it's fun. Speedrunner wise, it's all right. In terms of like visual uh stimulation, it's not good at all. Basically, everything is gray, and that's never fun. But it's fine. It gets the job done. Stage 30, swim and cover. I just think it's fun, and like the hazards work towards the gimmick. Basically, everything that you can interact with in that stage is something that you can use to hide behind if something's getting too close. Like the mine and the jellyfish, you can hide behind those. Um, and with something like the orca hazard that will swim by, if it touches a jellyfish, it will basically like immediately turn around and leave. So that is very, very helpful. Of course, it has the oyster, which you can use to just instantly kill things that are giving you too much trouble. You can either do that by luring them towards the oyster or just by like inhaling them and timing it right, which is always fun to do, hard to do, but fun to do. So I think overall it's like a very solid stage that kind of works towards what it's going for. Unfortunately, it's not very good from a speedrunning perspective because it's kind of slow, but it's fine. I give it a pass because it's just that fun. Stage 27, stun, 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 boom. I will not say that name again because it's too long. Stage 27 is it is okay. It is what Marlin Madness is copying, and for something that revolves around stun, it's surprisingly good for speedrunning because the pufferfish are super valuable. They're usually the most valuable thing on screen. Um, you do have to be careful at times though, because if you activate stun too late into the level, it will lose you time. But overall, I think it's a perfectly fine stage. Um, you can use stun to get the golden minnow more consistently, which is good. Um, and then I think it also has mines which play into the stun. So overall, fairly solid, perfectly fine. Works really well casually. I'll say that. Then we have stage one, the very first one in the game, the one I have played the most of by far. Um, I think putting it like right towards the middle is basically perfect. It teaches you the mechanics of the game very naturally. There are there are a ton of small fish. There's you, and then there's some other fish that are bigger than you, and you have to eat the smaller fish while avoiding the bigger fish. Perfectly simple as that. There's no frills, there's no extra gimmicks. It's just very playing it straight. And that's exactly what you need from a first level. It's the only one that's like it has no power-ups or no hazards. But that's perfectly fine. It's the very first stage. Um it holds back like a lot, but that's fine. It's the very first stage. You can play this stage extremely fast with good spawns. But other than that, just kind of a solid stage overall. Stage 9, Hear Me Roar, is the first Leon stage. Uh, introduces the Inhale, which is the most broken ability in the game. Um, I don't know if it's as broken as Shield. One of the two of them is going to be more busted. Shield is just so good in this game, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Inhale is also extremely good. You can use it to just instantly um, get rid of a school of fish in front of you. And it's yours now. You can use it to reposition things like jellyfish or mines or bigger fish, and you can cancel it at any point in time. And that's extremely powerful. And I think Stage 9 does a pretty good job of introducing it. It has jellyfish, it has schools of fish. So, I mean, I would think it has jellyfish. I could be remembering wrong. I'm pretty sure it has jellyfish. But it has schools of fish at the very least. And that is the perfect introduction of what Inhale is supposed to do. If you use Inhale to inhale schools of fish, you're using it correctly, at the very least. So that is probably the most important lesson that you're supposed to learn from Inhale. And this stage, introducing Inhale, does it perfectly. So casually, great. Speedrunner wise, perfectly fine. Uh, it is a golden minnow stage, but golden minnows are very easily obtained by inhaling them. So I think that works. Stage 29, tuna sashimi, which is, oh boy, it's like very, very difficult. I think it, alongside a couple other stages, one of the most difficult in the entire game. I have recently come around to it quite a bit. If you get golden minnow very early in phase two, then you can do this stage extremely fast. Um, there's no oysters, unfortunately, so you can't like fall back on black pearls. Um, but like it's just an extremely hard stage. It's definitely a stage where it's like um trying to teach you what the end of the game is going to look like, and from that perspective, it does that perfectly. It kind of loses points casually just because it's so difficult. Unlike something like Surgeon Crossing doesn't have a reason to be that difficult, but for what it's worth, I really like it. I find it very fun. It's probably I think that if stage 22 is not my most controversial pick on this list, stage 29 is. We got to move up a tier again. Stage 18, Tricky Treasure. It's the only Eddie stage with two oysters, and guess what? It's not an oyster stage. It introduces the concept of the fast oysters, which are really good for speedrunning because it means that they get to cycle RNG more often, you get more pearls. Wonderful. Um, but also it's a golden minnow stage. So like I guess they really wanted that stage to be fast for speedrunning somehow. So if you get a lot of black pearls and time the golden minnow right, it is an extremely short stage. At the same time, it could be a bit slow if you start missing things like um, if you miss the golden minnow, that's not good. If you get crushed in oyster, that's not good. Um, if something steals a pearl, that's also not good. But I think generally speaking, Tricky Treasure is just a really, really good uh, stage. Just overall, it's very fun. Um, it kind of copies the visual style of Surgeon Crossing bit for bit, which I'm not a huge fan of, but okay, whatever. There are worse offenders on this list. Stage number 10, Gas Bag. This introduces the pufferfish, and it's fine. Uh, it is mostly saved by the fact that it's just really fun. It doesn't have any stun to deal with the pufferfish, but that's fine. It teaches patience, I guess. It's mostly just a really fun stage. Just from a casual perspective, the pufferfish are an interesting thing to deal with. From a speedrunning perspective, pufferfish, really, really good. Uh, Tip for anyone who wants to speedrun this game more, if at any point you see a pufferfish on screen and it is not stage 11, eat the pufferfish. The pufferfish is the most valuable thing on screen at any given time, except for stage 11, where that goes to the anglerfish for some reason. But stage 10, really, really good, really fun. Um, can be a bit problematic or slow if the pufferfish are too, uh, like, uh, if they're in the wrong part of their cycle, then it can be particularly slow. But otherwise, it's just kind of like really fun. Stage 23, Melting Pot. This stage introduces the shield, and the shield is broken, like I said earlier. I don't really know why it introduces the shield on stage 23 as opposed to stage 25, because I associate the shield more with JD and Orville, and then for some reason Eddie just randomly has shield introduced there. I guess it's just to like get every gimmick out of the way before going to JD. Whatever. But having shield is just really, really good. Shield is, I'd argue, probably the perfect power up to get at any given point in time. Unlike Feeding Frenzy 2, you never, ever, ever want to die in this game. So having Shield is just a huge buff. Um, it means you can take a hit from literally anything. You can take a hit from a mine. You can take a hit from a bigger fish. You can take as many hits as you want from an oyster because for some reason oysters don't interact with the shield at all. So you can't die to an oyster if you have a shield, which is very epic and also very convenient for speedrunning. Because if you need black pearls, for example, like on stage 23, I think stage 23 is a golden minnow stage, but you still want black pearls anyway. You can just sit next to the oyster, and any sort of timing for that is gone, and it's just completely consistent. You do need to move out of the way to eat other things, because just sitting at the oyster is slow, as you might expect, but it is technically an option. So stage 23 is pretty good. Stage 15, don't eat the green fish. Introduces the poison minnow. I think introduces the poison minnow pretty well. It doesn't have the golden minnow to confuse you at all, which I think is a good thing. It has oysters, which I think actually pair with the poison minnow really well in this stage specifically when it comes to teaching you how poison minnows work, because they invert your controls. So it teaches you like you really don't want to accidentally eat a poison minnow, because if you do, you can easily die in an oyster. So from that perspective, really good. Speedrun wise, I mean, whatever. It's like every other poison minnow stage where you have to learn how inverted controls work, or just spam left mouse button until you're no longer poisoned. So it's whatever. Casually, perfectly good. Perfectly good. I think it works. Stage 5, Schools Out. Can be pretty slow. Introduces schools of fish, which I find whatever, but Andy is not good at dealing with schools. I think Feeding Frenzy 2 does a better job of introducing schools of fish as a gimmick because it introduces them alongside Inhale, which is the perfect counter to them. In that sense, it does it much better. But for what it's worth, Stage 5 is fine. Um, Stage 5 can be like particularly slow though. I commented on this earlier, but Stage 5 can just be really, really slow sometimes, and that just kind of sucks. But what can you do? For what it's worth, it's pretty good as a stage. So, at least there's that. And then we have stage 34, Midway Crossing, which is the best Orville stage by far, because guess what? You don't have to move as much for it. It's like everything is moving um, across the screen, so you don't have to chase things down. They will come to you. And I think that's probably the best way for many things to move on that giant stage is just move in a straight line, be very predictable, but also take up like this large amount of space. I think that's perfectly fine for stage 34. Um, and I think overall, it's just kind of like a better stage than most others, just generally speaking. Um, it's pretty good. It's the best Orville stage by far. It doesn't really fall into the trap of the other Orville stages as much. It kind of falls into them sometimes, and it's pretty hard, but it is okay. And then we have Stage 4, Hidden Treasures. Sorry, I'm just writing something real quick. Alright, once I finish with the tier list, I'm going to be done streaming for the night. I forgot about something. But it's okay, I'll finish up the tier list. We can go a bit more rapid fire with some of these. Stage 4, Hidden Treasures, has 2 oysters, which makes it really fast if it gives you black pearls. Um, and as an introduction to oysters, it's perfectly fine. Does job very well. Um, that's basically it. Can be really fast from a speedrunner's perspective. Can be pretty okay from a casual perspective. It's pretty good. Stage 7, Crazy Jellies, introduces the golden minnow and the jellyfish, which is an interesting combo to introduce together, but I think it actually works. Golden minnows can be stunned. It's probably the most required golden minnow in the entire run. If you don't get it, then that stage 7 is just extremely slow, as evidenced by the fact that my records stage 7 doesn't get it. Um, but it's fine. It kind of it's early on. You can reset for it. It's fine. Um, if nothing else, it teaches you how to chase down golden minnows, then you can get it more consistently. It also has an oyster to fall back on, but uh, the optimal strategy is to get a black pearl and then the golden minnow, because then you can do everything the fastest you possibly can, which is ideal. Stage 17, what's the angle? I recently proved that this can be done sub-minute, and it is pretty good. It introduces the Fury Bubble, which is a pretty good power-up. Again, I don't know whether it's slower to use it. I know that you can get soft locked with it sometimes, which is bad. But that's very, very rare. It only happens on a handful of stages. Generally speaking, Fury is pretty good. It allows you to just zip around the entire screen and basically ignore every hazard. For that matter, you can destroy certain hazards with it basically for free, which is pretty good. Um, so overall, good stage, I'd say. Very solid. Um, could be a bit better, but in terms of like this is a very standard stage, it's hard to get better than this. Stage 20, a shell game. You can do this fast by skipping uh, the bonus stage by dying in it. Can be a bit inconsistent, but from a casual perspective, very, very fun, very interesting. One of the best bonus stages, just period, which is really, really good. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. There's not a whole lot there. Stage 6, Barracuda Alert. Introduces barracudas and just giant fish in general. Um, it's really good. Definitely the best Andy stage, just because like compared to the other Andy stages where it's like this is baby mode, Barracuda Alert is like we're actually going to take you seriously for a moment. And from that perspective, actually really fun. Um, I can understand it being like the first difficulty spike in the game, akin to like Surgeon Crossing or Tuna Sashimi later on. But for what it's worth, Barracuda Alert, very, very fun stage. Definitely agree with it being like the best Andy stage, period. So, very good stage overall. Sucker's Bet Stage 32. Basically the same as Stage 20, but now with pufferfish. So, from a speedrunner's perspective, it's exactly the same. But from a casual perspective, it's better than Stage 20 because now you have more interesting things to deal with and there's more things around. It just combines Stage 28 with Stage 20, uh, just with nothing being removed from either. So it's just straight addition, which is good. In this case, I am okay with it copying previous stages because it at least takes two stages and adds them together, rather than taking one stage and then subtracting something from it, like Marlin Madness does with Stage 27. Stage 25, Hey Slick, which is the first JD stage, which is pretty good. Um, Actually, more than pretty good, it's really good. You can do this really, really fast, even without a golden minnow, just by inhaling schools of parrotfish. So, from that perspective, very, very good, very fun. Um, Definitely one of the few stages where playing it casually made me think, maybe I should like speedrun the game way back in June of last year. So, overall, very, very fun. Highly recommend it. And then we move up from the S tier to the S plus tier, which is the top three stages in the entire game. And I'm going to give a little more of an explanation for these. We're going to start with stage 14, which is Boom, um, which doesn't have any oysters. Actually, none of the ones in the top three have oysters now that I think about it, which is weird. Stage 14, overall, very fun. Yes, it kind of focuses on the stun, but that's okay. It introduces mines, and plays it pretty straight, and it works. Um, it's just very, very fun. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's just a super fun stage to play. I might be biased putting it up here, but I just really like it. I unfortunately I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. Um, I feel like it introduces mines in a very, I guess, like normal way, quote unquote. Um, but yeah, overall, I really like it. I think it does this job well. Um, no complaints. Stage 22, Surgeon Crossing. This used to be my favorite stage in the game, but then it got demoted a little bit because of speedrunning. From a casual perspective, best stage in the game. Just period, bar none. It teaches you how to be patient, it teaches you how everything works in the game. Um, it's basically like this whole okay, so you've gotten this far, prove to us that you can go even further. And if you can, then the rest of the game opens up to you. Uh, it is, of course, by nature, very, very hard. It is a huge difficulty spike, but I think it works as being this difficult, almost boss like stage. And I think maybe should have been placed after Melting Pot, in all honesty, but it's fine. For what it's worth, works perfectly fine. Um, and I like that it holds off on the hazards until like you've proven yourself a little bit. The poison minnows don't spawn until you reach phase 2. The barracuda doesn't spawn until you reach phase 3. It doesn't throw everything it's got at you. It actually staggers them so that you don't like go too fast and die or uh, just immediately get exploded, right? It doesn't immediately kill you for doing the most basic mistake. It allows for some wiggle room, which is good. But then at the top, my number one spot as of now is Stage 21 Deepwater Dreams, just because it's just really fun to play, and it's really fun to do that stage fast. Speedrunning it is more fun than speedrunning Surgeon Crossing, because Surgeon Crossing tends to slow down a little bit, but Deepwater Dreams, you are constantly moving. It's the first instance of that giant stage layout, but you are always on the move on that stage. You're always hopping from one place to the next. You're dodging orcas. You're inhaling schools of fish, and it works super well. If you are good enough at this stage, you can do it in under a minute, and it's super rewarding to do because unlike something that has a golden minnow or an oyster, it's entirely your own mechanical skill. Like if Stage 22 is a test of casual players, then Stage 21 is a test of speedrunners because the only way to do Stage 21 quickly is if you are good at the game. Um, and if you are good at the game, it's super, super rewarding to do that stage very quickly. And I don't have a whole lot else on this. Stage 21, best stage in the game. Stage 8, worst stage in the game. And this is the tier list. Um, as I said, I have to go after this. I forgot about something that I need to do. So sorry about that. Gonna have to cut the stream early. We did almost get world record in this stream, and for that matter, we did get an individual stage record. But for now, I'm just gonna cut it here. Happy 20th anniversary to the original Feeding Frenzy. Thanks for watching. I hope all of you guys have a wonderful day, whatever time of day it might be for you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Um, and yeah, take care. I'll be back at some point with more runs, maybe streamed, maybe um done after the fact, like recorded and then uploaded. We'll see. And I know that I can break my current record. When I do that, it'll be uploaded. Um, so until then, take care. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching.